Hi guys, if you were absent on Thursday, November 19th or Friday, November the 20th, go to T2 week 5 and click on the date that you need. The title is Solving Equations by Hand. It is a Jamboard, so you'll have to click on View Assignment to open yours. When you get into the Jamboard, you should see a Solving Equations warm-up. Okay, there is a model displayed and you are writing the equation for the model that is pictured. Okay, the equation that you should have come up with was 5x plus 1 for the left side because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x's plus 1 because there's one little blue dot on that side is equal to, because the scale represents equal, right? The right hand side where there are 3 x's, so 3x plus 5. Okay, slide 2, you are circling the coefficient, you are boxing the constant, and you are underlining the variable. Okay, you can either do those by hand or select the shape that you want. Okay, if we circle the coefficient is the number that is with the variable. So if you make a circle, you can drag it to where you need it to be. Remember, it is the big number that is with the variable. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and circle my two coefficients. So my coefficient on the left is a 5. My coefficient on the right is a 3. So now I'm going to box my constant. So I'm going to select the shape that I need. Constant is the number that I like to call it the loner. It's the number that's by itself. So it's this plus 1 right here. And it's not really by itself because it needs the symbol with it. So if it was a plus sign, you need to put that in the box so you know that it is a positive 1. If there were a minus sign there, then my constant would be a negative 1. Okay, so on this left side, this plus 1 is my constant. Okay, on the right-hand side, this plus 5 or 5 is my constant on the right. The variable that I'm looking for, I'm just going to underline that one. So I'm going to select the green highlighter. I'm going to underline the variable. Variable I'm looking for is the x. So when we're solving, our final answer should say something like x equals, or a number is equal to x, depending on whatever side my x is on. Okay, moving on to slide 3. Our learning target is here. Okay, this time we are working on solving equations with variables on both sides. Previously, we were working with models, helping us visualize it and eliminate things from each side. Now we're going to be doing it by hand. So the way we're going to achieve our target is by drawing a line down our equal sign. We're going to move the smaller x. We're going to add or subtract our constant. Remember, that's the number that's by itself. And then we're going to multiply or divide our coefficient, the number that is with the variable. Okay, so looking at slide 4, we've got an equation here. 5x plus 1 is equal to 3x plus 5. I went ahead and checked off our first step on our checklist, right? The line down the equal sign. So what I did was, at my equal sign, I just went ahead and drew a line down. Remember how we were doing on our models? We were creating a left side and a right side. Okay, so now I'm going to start checking off my checklist. It tells me to move the smaller x. And then I have a star by opposite operation. So moving my smaller x means that I have to use the opposite operation to get it to the other side of the equation. So the smaller x between a 5x and a 3x would be my 3x right here. It's a positive 3x, right? So then I need to do opposite by doing a minus 3x. So I'm going to do minus 3x on the right. That means I have to do it on the left. And I've got to line it up with the correct term, right? I have to line it up with my x's. Okay, so on the right-hand side, 3x minus 3x, those cancel out because those would just give me 0. 3 minus 3 is 0. Okay, so whatever I'm left with, I'm just going to bring it down. So 5, I'm bringing that down. I don't have to put the plus sign because 5 is understood as positive. I'm going to still bring down my equal sign. On this side, my left-hand side, I'm going to simplify what I have, which means I'm just going to either add or subtract whatever I need to. So if I do 5x minus 3x, okay, imagine us crossing out 3 of those 5x's that we have in our model, right? So 5 minus 3 is 2, so I'm left with 2x's plus 1. I moved my smaller x, so I'm going to check off on my checklist. Now it tells me to add or subtract the constant, right? Because I want to move it to the other side, because I want x to be by itself. So if I do opposite, right, opposite operation of plus 1, then I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. And I'm just changing color so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to subtract 1 on the left. Because I subtract 1 on the left, I've got to subtract 1 on the right. And I only have numbers to line it up with over here on the right side. 1, positive 1 minus 1 just simplifies to give me 0, right? So I'm left with 2x on the left-hand side. I'm going to bring down my equal sign. Then I just either add or subtract whatever I have on the right. So 5 minus 1 is 4. I added or subtracted my constant, so I'm going to check that off on my checklist. And then last, I got to multiply or divide my coefficient. Remember, coefficient is the number that is with your variable, right? So now I've got to divide, right? Because opposite of multiply, these are multiply. Opposite of multiply is to divide by 2. Because whatever my coefficient is, that's what I have to divide by. If I do it on the left, I have to do it on the right. 2 divided by 2 just simplifies to be 1. Remember, whenever something is 1x, we can just leave it as an x. Is equal to, we do the division, right? Either in our head or use our calculator. 4 divided by 2, because that's how we see it, is equal to 2. I multiplied or divided by my constant using the opposite operation, so I have fulfilled all of my checklist. My final answer is x equals 2 because that's the variable that we started with in our equation. Slide 5 and 6, you are identifying the parts of the equation based off of the example that we did together. Remember, we circled our coefficient, the number with x. We put a box around our constant, the number that was by itself, and then we underline our variable. So now you're filling in the blank for each part of the equation on each side. So I've got to fill in the left side and the right side for slide 5 and slide 6. Okay, here is another example of an equation with our checklist on it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and work this one together as well. So I did the first step of your checklist. I drew a line down the equal sign. Now my next step is to move the smaller x. So I've got a 12x and I've got a negative 3x. The smaller one is negative 3x, so I'm going to do opposite operation and I'm going to add 3x to both sides. Remember, I got to align it with my x's, vertically aligned. Negative 3 plus 3, that just simplifies to be 0. So on the right-hand side, I'm left with 30. The left-hand side, if I do 12 plus 3, I get 15. Don't forget to bring your x down with it. Minus 15, because I'm just bringing that down from the row above it. Now I've got to, I'm going to check it off because I moved my x. I'm going to add or subtract the constant. So the number that's by itself, right, on the left-hand side, I'm going to do opposite of whatever that tells me. It's minus 15, so I'm going to do opposite, and I'm going to add 15 to both sides. Okay, negative 15 plus 15, that just simplifies to be 0. So I am left with 15x on the left is equal to, if I add those two together, I get 45. And then my last step of my checklist is to multiply or divide by the coefficient that I have. So I'm going to divide by 15 because it started with multiplication, 15x, right? So if I do it on the left side, I have to do it on the right side as well. 15 divided by 15, remember that simplifies to just be 1. So I am left with x equals 45 divided by 15 is 3. I can check off my last box, and our final answer is x equals 3. Okay, you're going to complete slide 8 using your checklist. Make sure you put your answer in this red box. You are also going to complete slide 9. There is no checklist to follow, but remember you can always go back and use your checklist to help you solve it. You are putting your answer here in the griddable. Okay, if your answer is positive or negative, you can fill in these bubbles right here. The decimal point is already there. So if you have a whole number, the whole number goes on the left of your decimal. If you have a decimal answer, then it goes on the right of the decimal. So if we had $5, the 5 is going on the left of the decimal because it's 5.00, right? If we had 50 cents, then remember our number should go on the right of the decimal because it's 0.50. Okay, for the next few problems, slide 10, 11, 12, and 13, you're going to need your Desmos calculator. Okay, slide 14 is like one of the problems we had from our last pair deck. Okay, you are trying to see where your lines are crossing. Okay, if you make a point on the graph where they are touching, then all you have to do is get the coordinates of those points. So the answer to this one would be -2, 1, because remember it's x first and then y. Okay, so go ahead and press pause, go open up your Desmos, and then I will help you with slide number, where was it? Slide number 10. Okay, so when we get our final answers and we are checking our work, you can use the Desmos calculator to do that. We are answering, does the left side equal the right side? So once you get your final answer, right, if you notice that these are the equations that we have already solved, okay? So on one of the answers, we should have gotten 3, and the other we should have gotten 6. So now we're going to check to make sure that these are true, these are correct. So if I plug in a 3 anywhere I see x, when I simplify each of my sides, the left should equal the right side. So if I say 12, instead of the x, I'm going to put a 3 in parentheses because remember, parentheses means to multiply. Minus 15. I'm going to do one side at a time. I'm going to go plug this into Desmos exactly how I see that, and I'm going to get a number. Then I'm going to check to see if it's equal to the right-hand side. Okay, hopefully you can see this okay. I have my Desmos open. So I showed the keypad. I'm going to type in what I had over here on my Jamboard, which was 12, parentheses. Instead of the x, remember, we substituted that 3. Close the parentheses, and then I said minus 15. Okay, so I'm going to hit this blue arrow, that's the enter, so I should be getting 21. Okay, so over here on my Jamboard, I'm just going to say 21 is on the left side. I want to know, is it equal to my right side? So I'm just going to do a different